Hello everyone, it's time for another special video. I promised when Tantalus Steps got to 600 pre-orders that I would release Chapter 2 and do another reading of it like I did with Chapter 1, and we passed it, and in fact we're now at 615, which means we have less than 150 left to go, and we only have 19 days to get there, but I'm confident we will. So without further ado, I shall get into the reading. Chapter 2. Alright kids, get to your stations. This is where it gets real, Mary said into the intercom as the Diamolon finally emerged into Tantalus 13's orbit. The planet wasn't much to look at. Big, gray, and crater-covered, just like most other non-gas giants out there. It looked an awful lot like Earth's moon, only slightly larger than the Earth itself. If the survey probe that passed the planet 5 years ago hadn't detected a few decent-sized cobalt deposits, Tantalus 13 would have never been much more than a name on a navigation chart. Commander Gorrister floated into the cockpit and buckled himself in next to her. Mary gladly relinquished control of the intercom, and he began giving orders. Hertz, is the surveyor satellite prepped for deployment? All systems in the green, Commander, Hertz replied over the comm. Stand by to launch in 2 minutes. All of the crews sound off. Gage here, strapped in, good to go. Yancey's voice came over the comm. Travis here, good to go, said Becky. Rook here, sitting pretty. Gorrister waited for Ramanathan, but he didn't respond. Bacall, sound off, Gorrister insisted. Bacall ready, mumbled Ramanathan glumly. Gorrister gave Mary a look, clearly stating that yes, even though he could see her right there, he wanted her to sound off too, for procedure's sake. She did, mentally rolling her eyes at the pointlessness of it all. All compartments sealed, all loose objects secured, all systems green, Gorrister continued. Hertz, deploy GPR satellite in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was a whooshing sound from the back of the ship. Satellite deployed, entering stable orbit, said Hertz with pride. Mary craned her neck and looked out the side window. She caught a glimpse of a boxy metallic object falling away behind them as they descended. As she watched, the ground-penetrating radar satellite unfurled 2 large solar collection panels, briefly showing a reflection of the Diamolon as it fell farther and farther away. Are we getting telemetry data? Asked Gorrister. Yes, sir, we're getting a full-spectrum feed, all sensors broadcasting, answered Hertz. Good start, Gorrister said, very nearly smiling. Mary, see if you can tune into Scarab's radio frequency. Yes, sir. Mary flipped on the radio signal detector and began searching for broadcasts from Tantalus. The Diamolon was not the first man-made object set down on the surface of Tantalus 13. 2 years before commissioning their expedition, Exotech Industries had sent an unmanned probe to the planet. The probe was carrying a scarab plant, a new and revolutionary machine for use in deep space mining and colonization. The self-constructing autonomous resource acquisition base was a highly sophisticated artificial intelligence housed in a miniaturized fabrication plant. Scarabs were meant to be deposited on resource-rich worlds and proceed to build themselves using the resources in their surroundings. They assembled remote-controlled rovers that could go out and bring back useful materials, which the Scarabs would smelt down and process into building materials, which it would use to create new structures. The Scarab that had been planted on Tantalus 13 had spent the past 2 years building a facility that the crew of the Diamolon could live in and conduct their research from, as well as assemble any tools they might need while there. Think I have the frequency, Commander. Try this, said Mary. Scarab, this is the survey ship Diamolon. Are you receiving? Gorrister said into the microphone. There was no immediate response. Mary frowned. That's the frequency it's supposed to be on, Commander. I'll try expanding the range. She adjusted the settings on their external radio emitter, finally nodding at Gorrister to try again. Scarab, this is Commander Gorrister of the survey ship Diamolon. Please respond. There was a sharp blast of static and a pop of feedback, followed by a slightly garbled but sufficiently intelligible, gender-neutral synthetic voice. Hello, Commander Gorrister. I am quite pleased to speak with you. I perceive a need. Would you like me to provide you with landing coordinates? Gorrister finally cracked a full-blown grin. Good to meet you, Scarab. If you could, we'd be most grateful. Of course, Commander Gorrister. I am quite pleased to provide you with landing coordinates. I have also activated my homing beacon and landing lights near my facilities for your convenience. Can I provide for you in any other way, Commander Gorrister? That's more than sufficient, thank you, Scarab. We'll be landing momentarily, Gorrister answered. I shall be quite pleased to receive your crew. Welcome to Tantalus 13, Commander Gorrister. Gorrister flipped off the microphone, then turned to Mary. You getting that signal? Yes, Commander, I'm receiving the coordinates, and I'm picking up that beacon. It seems Scarab settled much farther south than we anticipated. It must have detected a valuable mineral deposit the survey probe missed. I'm correcting our course to compensate. Can you still get us in okay? Mary nodded. No problem, Commander. Tantalus has next to no atmosphere, so landing should be smooth and easy. Good. Take us down, then. Mary finessed her control yoke and brought the diamylin into a gentle roll. The great gray ball of Tantalus rolled upwards in her window as she honed in on the planet's southern hemisphere. With a boost of their afterburners, she masterfully corrected their trajectory, and the desolate world grew more and more massive until it completely filled their field of vision. A perceptible shudder went through the ship as it encountered its first atmosphere since leaving Earth. As Mary had observed, the atmosphere was very thin and the turbulence abated quickly, dying to a simple vibration. As they descended lower and lower into the alien sky, the soft roar of thin winds lashing at their hull became more and more noticeable. Soon, gray, rocky mountains and valleys came into view, all pockmarked with hundreds of meteorite craters of varying size. Finally, a glint of artificial light caught Mary's eye, and she nudged the control yoke to bring the light to the center of her view. Finally, the ship passed over the rim of a gargantuan crater, likely left by an asteroid or comet thousands of years ago. As the center of the crater came into view, Mary finally laid eyes upon Scarab's facility. Scarab had artfully constructed itself into a series of modular habitable structures arranged in rings around a circular habitation building nearly the size of a high school gymnasium. Off to one side was a large factory and foundry that Scarab had built to augment its own production abilities, and next to that was a garage with about a dozen remote rovers and one large, six-wheeled dune buggy-like vehicle. The fact that these marvels of industry were created by an artificial mind was impressive enough. However, what shocked Mary the most was what they were made of. Every wall of every building, every support strut, every nut and bolt seemed to be made of pure silver. Even the remote rovers had a marvelous chrome-like finish. Mary then noticed that off in the distance, at the very epicenter of the impact crater, there seemed to be a lake of the same gorgeous reflective material, sparkling gloriously with the mirrored starry sky. Lord have mercy, Gorrister said in awe. Scarab's built us heaven. Mary tore her eyes away from the dazzling sight long enough to pick out the landing lights Scarab had provided her. They glowed a brilliant fluorescent blue, artfully outlining not only a circle that perfectly accommodated the diamylin's dimensions, but also a neat little footpath leading up to the facility's main airlock. Mary lowered the diamylin down over the pad, deploying the landing gear and setting down gently. Gorrister gave Mary a congratulatory squeeze on the shoulder as he unbuckled from his seat and awkwardly stood up, his body not yet reacclimated to the presence of gravity. Good landing, Mary. Let's go meet our new landlord. Mary smiled and removed her own harness and headset. She stood up with a symphony of cracking joints and clumsily hobbled after Gorrister back towards the hab-mod. Despite having made extensive use of the exercise equipment and the tiny recreational module to keep from losing muscle mass over the course of a 6-month journey, the sudden return of a gravitational pull on her body made her feel like a stroke victim learning to walk again. A 400-pound stroke victim with prosthetic legs. The whole crew was gathering together in a hab-mod, chatting excitedly and stepping into exosuits. Half a dozen adults stumbling around like toddlers while trying to climb into spacesuits was an inherently amusing sight. Seriously, guys, I think I lost about 20 pounds on this flight, Rook said jovially. I'm feeling light as a feather here. You all got fat. I know, man, I just couldn't help it, Yancey replied, slapping his belly. The cooking was just so good I couldn't keep my hands off the food. Now I'll never fit into my prom dress. Forget prom, bathing suit season's coming soon, and I am ready to hit the beach, said Rook. Don't forget your sunscreen, said Becky, tossing a tube of macaroni food paste in Rook's direction. He immediately unscrewed the cap, squirted a glob into his hand, and rubbed it all over his nose, much to the mixed amusement and disgust of the others. Gorrister snatched the food tube from Rook and handed it off to Hertz, who put it back into the food locker. All right, kids, don't get carried away, Gorrister said congenially. We're all excited to be here, but we're not going to break with protocol now. Finish suiting up, grab any belongings you're going to want in the base today. Not everything, just the necessities for now. Then get ready to start unloading all the heavy equipment. There was a collective groan. I don't want to hear it. I know everybody's just getting used to lifting your own bodies, but we need to get the heavy stuff out of the hold as soon as we can so Scarab can start putting it together for us. For now, we're all blue-collar load lifters. I saw that Scarab built some kind of vehicles for us, Hertz pointed out. Maybe we can use that for some of the heavier crates. Don't worry about the provisions just yet. I want you to focus on offloading the fusion drill and the core sampler. Don't touch the explosives, Rook. Gorrister gave Rook a knowing glare. Rook grinned mischievously. First, though, let's meet our new host, Gorrister announced. Everyone suited up? By now they had all donned the bulky exosuits, minus the helmets. Rook and Yancey took a bit longer than the others to do so, as their suits were specially modified mining exosuits. Both were equipped with enhanced sensors, shoulder-mounted multispectral imaging cameras, and hydraulic exoskeletal braces to increase their lifting and weight-bearing abilities. They each confirmed readiness, and Gorrister led them into the airlock. They placed their helmets securely on their heads, locking them in place, and confirmed an airtight seal. Satisfied, Gorrister depressurized the airlock and opened the outer door. Rook was the first human being to ever set foot on the soil of Tantalus 13. The rest soon followed, taking the time to look around and take in their alien surroundings. Tantalus's surface was just as moon-like from the ground as it had appeared from space. Ash-gray dirt as far as the eye could see, permeated by craters of varying sizes. The sky was a black star field, only slightly faded by the thin atmosphere and illumination of its distant sun. All in all, Tantalus 13 was nothing special as far as planets go, yet it was still beautiful to the crew of the Diamolin. They had at last reached their goal. Their 6-month wait was at an end. They could finally get down to the work they'd been paid for. Look, Rook said over his suit radio. He pointed in the direction of the Scarab base, as a small shape began approaching them. As it drew closer, they could more clearly identify it as one of Scarab's remote rovers. As it neared, it became apparent that it wasn't nearly as small as they had thought. Its vertical height seemed to be about 5 feet from head to treads. Its base was about 3 feet wide, swivel-mounted on a pair of durable 8-wheeled tread tracks. A number of specialized appendages protruded from its chassis, ending in tools that ranged from fine manipulators to shovels to plasma torches. Its head was a cluster of 4 large, black, round, telescoping multispectral lenses, looking exactly like 2 pairs of binoculars stacked on top of each other. The rover slowed its pace as it neared, picking Commander Gorrister out of the group and wheeling right up to him. It extended a pincher claw toward him from its midsection. I am quite pleased to meet you in person, Commander Gorrister. Welcome again to Tantalus 13, came Scarab's voice over their suit radios. Gorrister grinned and took the drone's claw with his right hand, shaking it genially. Glad to be here, Scarab. Allow me to introduce you to my crew. This is Dr. William Hertz, our electronics specialist. Scarab turned to Hertz. It is a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Hertz. I am certain you and I will be working very closely while you are here. Hertz nodded, smiling. I'm sure. From what I saw of your handiwork on our way in, it looks like you might be able to teach me a few things. Gorrister continued. This is Dr. Rebecca Travis, our geologist. Welcome, Dr. Travis. I am sure you will be quite intrigued by some of the seismic readings I have taken since I have been here. Thank you, Scarab. I'm looking forward to it, said Becky. And this is Dr. Ramanathan Bakal, our medical specialist, said Gorrister. Welcome, Dr. Bakal. I do hope you will find my medical center to be your desired standards. Ramanathan nodded wordlessly. Gorrister made his way down the line to Mary. This is our pilot, Mary Ketch. Scarab's drone wheeled over to Mary and extended its manipulator claw for her to shake as well. I am quite pleased to make your acquaintance, Miss Ketch. I wish to congratulate you on your excellent piloting. I shall strive to be as effective a caretaker for your crew on land as you have been to them on your journey here. Mary smiled and nodded. She was impressed by Scarab's conversational ability. However, its steady stream of complimenting platitudes was getting old fast. She hoped it wouldn't be such a brown-noser for their entire stay on Tantalus. Feeling a somewhat irrational fear of seeming rude to a machine, she shook the extended claw. Thank you, Scarab. Gorister seemed reluctant to acknowledge the presence of the remaining two, but did so anyway. And this is Hollis, Rook, and Yancey Gage, our mining specialists. Watch out for them. Before Scarab could tell them how impressed it was with the fake Boy Scout badge Rook had glued to the outside of his exosuit, or how inspiring it found Yancey's ability to have a 2 days' worth of stubble immediately following a shave, Rook waltzed right up to the drone and grabbed the manipulator claw, shaking it like a fox might shake a goose's neck. Pleased to meet you, scary old buddy, old friend, old pal. I got a feeling you and I are going to be just the gosh darn bestest buddies of all time, by golly. Let's build a tree fort together. I am pleased to meet you, Mr. Rook. I do hope I can find something to keep you occupied. Rook, heel, Gorister ordered. Scarab, we have some heavy equipment to offload if you'd like to assist us. Oh, it would greatly please me to unload your cargo. In fact, why don't I unload all of it for you myself? My remote drones are quite strong enough to handle the task. There is no need for your crew to exert themselves after such a long journey. Yeah, how about that, Commander? Let the bots do all the lifting for us, Yancey said enthusiastically. You'd like that, wouldn't you? Thanks, Scarab, but the fusion drill and the core sampler are critical pieces of machinery. They need to be handled delicately. My remote drones are each capable of bearing loads of up to 900 kilograms and possess dexterity and sensitivity sufficient to fold an origami crane. I am capable of operating all 15 of them simultaneously with zero reduction in individual performance ability, whilst running up to 2,033 additional programs. My services are at your disposal in any desired capacity, and it is my pleasure to serve, Scarab announced. Gorister raised an eyebrow. I guess I hadn't realized you were quite so capable. All right, go ahead and unload our equipment. I suppose we'll settle in with our things. There was a collective sigh of relief as the crewmen realized they would be free of the back-breaking labor they'd anticipated. The Scarab drone motioned graciously for them to follow as it began rolling toward the base. Even as they followed, they could see 10 more Scarab drones approach from the garage. No two of the drones were exactly identical, each built and equipped for a different function. However, they all shared the same basic design of a treaded base, a swivel-mounted torso equipped with manipulator limbs, and a 4-eyed sensor head. The first drone led them to the airlock door, and it hissed open, releasing a brief burst of pressurized air. The drone gestured to the airlock, and the 7 crewmen entered. The drone did not follow, instead turning around and driving back toward the ship to join its brethren in unloading their cargo. The exterior door shut behind them, and they felt a whoosh as the Tantalus air was sucked out of the lock and replaced with breathable oxygen. Because of my location near the pole, my remote drones have been able to retrieve large quantities of ice that I have been able to convert into both breathable air and potable water for your comfort, Scarab said over their radios. The quantities retrieved have enabled me to pressurize the entire complex for your convenience. Beyond this point, you may remove your helmets at your leisure. The interior airlock door slid open, and Gorister removed his helmet, and the others soon followed suit. Nice, Yancey said. Scarab's air filters must be a lot better than ours. Somehow this air feels fresher. Scarab's soft, androgynous voice now came to them from all sides, projected from some kind of surround sound speaker system in the walls. By carefully balancing the oxygen-nitrogen balance and injecting numerous other trace gases and vapors, I have replicated the atmospheric composition of the average rural area on Earth with 98% accuracy. Minus the pollen content, of course, though I could create a synthetic equivalent if you wish. Don't you dare, Hertz said. I get hay fever like nobody's business. As they stepped out into the foyer area, they found the interior was designed with an uncanny attention to aesthetics. The walls curved gracefully into the ceiling and were crafted not from the silvery material they had seen on the outside, but of a ceramic-like substance, veined through with traces of blue marbling. "What is this place made out of, Scarab?" Hertz asked. "The interior is composed primarily of a silicone polymer. It is flexible, airtight, and non-porous. The superstructure of this facility is made primarily of a steel alloy, and the exterior is coated in polished platinum in order to defend against meteor impacts and to deflect most forms of radiation." At that, everyone froze. "Scarab, did you say platinum?" Gorrister asked. "The entire building is coated in platinum." "Yes, Commander Gorrister. Platinum is the most readily available resource to which I have access. It took my remote drones several weeks to gather enough iron ore to build the framework. I could not use platinum for that purpose, as its conductivity would have made the installation of wiring systems far too difficult." "Platinum," Rook said in awe. "Platinum is the most readily available resource." "Yes, Mr. Rook. A massive platinum deposit was uncovered by this crater. It is for that reason that I selected this location for installation. I have mined more than 50 metric tons of platinum for my construction efforts since my arrival." Mary fell against the wall, sliding into a bench seat. 50 tons of platinum. "We're rich!" Rook shouted victoriously. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are the richest folks in the galaxy!" There was a huge commotion of excited cheers and congratulations from the group. Even Ramanathan seemed elated by this incredible news. Mary, however, simply sat in disbelief. 50 tons of platinum, she said again, hoping the repetition might aid her ability to process this information. Scarab had mined 50 tons of platinum. It had smelted it down and used it to build the habitat she was sitting in. Scarab had used platinum for shingles and siding. At that huge seat of reflective material she had seen on the way down was even more platinum. There must be hundreds, perhaps thousands of tons of the stuff out there. Granted, she knew Rook was actually wrong in calling them the richest people in the galaxy, since any ore mined on their mission was technically the property of their benefactor, Exotech Industries. If they played their cards right, they could probably cajole Exotech into giving them a healthy bonus, maybe even stock options. Once a full-scale mining industry was established on Tantalus 13, Exotech would have access to so much platinum they could effectively corner the market on its trade. There was probably enough platinum in that crater to completely crash the value of the open market on Earth if it handled incorrectly. Handled correctly, however, it could turn Exotech into the most powerful corporation in the entire colonial hegemony, all thanks to the success of their mission. She was interrupted from her reverie by an unexpected bear hug from Yancey, which she cordially reciprocated before playfully pushing him away. All right, Gorrister said over the din. "Settle down, kids. We've still got a lot of work ahead of us, and let's not count our bankrolls before they're deposited. Scarab, can you show us to our quarters, please?" "Certainly, Commander Gorrister," said the disembodied synthesized voice. Suddenly, a ribbon of blue light appeared on both walls of the corridor immediately to their left, a steady pulse running their lengths, indicating that they should follow. As they walked down the corridor, Mary ran a hand over the band of illumination. It wasn't clear what the light source was. It had been completely invisible before it lit up, and it was cool to the touch. It seemed to emit a very faint electrostatic field, just barely enough to make the fine hairs on the back of her knuckles tingle. "In an effort to make your stay as comfortable as possible, I have furnished individual rooms for all of you," Scarab announced. "Actually, since I did not know the exact number of crew members to expect, I built living accommodations for a crew of 10. They reached the rooms at the end of the hallway, each crew member choosing one to live in. When Mary opened the door, she was surprised to see how lavish the accommodations were. There was a twin-sized bed with a mattress made out of some kind of foam. It was set on an actual bed frame with a surprisingly ornate platinum headboard. There was a footlocker at the base of her bed for personal belongings, as well as a bedside table topped with a porcelain lamp with a blue shade made of frosted glass. On the right side of the room, set up against the wall on a stone pedestal, was a small fountain, creating the soothing sound of a creek as water flowed over a set of rounded rocks that could have easily passed for real river stones. The walls were covered in the same blue marbled white silicone polymer found in the hallway, only the wall on the left side of the room had an actual painting hanging on it. It showed a distant mountain at sunset, framed on both sides by 2 trees in the foreground. Despite the warm yellows and oranges from the treetops and the pale blueness of the open sky, there was something in the dark greens of the shadows beneath the trees that Mary didn't care for. It seemed lonely, as if the sunset illuminating the distant, barren mountain peak was an expression of unrealized hopes, though that could have easily been a sensation that Mary had brought with her. "How did you manage to do all this, Scarab?" Mary asked in wonder. "The mattress is made primarily of polyurethane, which I made using carbon from—" "I didn't mean how did you find the materials," Mary interrupted. "I meant how were you able to come up with these designs? The bed frame, the painting. How is a computer designed to set up a mining facility capable of this kind of artistic expression?" "I possess a limited catalog of data regarding highlights of Earth culture. The painting is a lithographic print of Alexander Scott's diamond head from Tantalus, circa 1906. I deemed it appropriate, given its name. I have endeavored to use my cultural data to create an environment reminiscent of home." Mary shook her head. "But why go through so much trouble for us? None of us were expecting a 5-star hotel here. You've gone far beyond what's necessary for the mission." Scarab hesitated for a moment, as if it were uncertain of the answer itself. "I am a fully self-aware machine, Miss Ketch. Though my purpose is the acquisition of resources in the service of organic beings, I do possess some freedom to determine the best way to go about doing so. An adaptive and resourceful intelligence is crucial for a device with my responsibilities, as I must be capable of overcoming any unforeseen hindrances to the completion of my mission. My primary purpose is to provide for your needs in any way I can. When I built the habitation area, I paid a great amount of attention to aesthetics because I decided a luxurious environment would be beneficial to crew morale and mental health. It is true that you could have completed your mission with more Spartan accommodations, but if I can improve your experience here in any way, it is my great pleasure to make the extra effort." Mary still wasn't sold on Scarab's explanation. She found it odd and somewhat disconcerting that Scarab was capable of thinking so far outside the box regarding its interpretation of its own mission parameters. She had encountered AIs before, and they were almost always designed to perform tedious, menial tasks in the most direct and efficient way possible. She'd never heard of an artificial intelligence capable of interior decorating, and up until now she would have thought such a thing to be impossible. She wasn't sure what other kind of surprises she might have coming her way, but she was going to be keeping a wary eye out for them from this point on. "This might be a stupid question, but are you everywhere in this facility?" Mary asked. "I mean, can you see and hear everything that happens in every room? I can't even see the speakers you're using to talk to me." "I have visual and auditory sensors in every major area of this facility, including the labs, the hallways, the fabrication plant, the garage, the common area, the dining area, the sleeping quarters, the—" "You have cameras in my room, too?" Mary interrupted again. "My visual sensors are actually clusters of fiber optic strands which are integrated into the ceilings. My auditory receivers are the walls themselves. I am able to translate the vibrations produced by the sound waves of your voice against the walls into data I can process. I produce my auditory communication in a similar manner." "So there is no area in this facility where you can't see or hear what's going on," Mary said concernedly. Scarab paused for a moment. "My ethics module prohibits me from using visual sensors in the lavatories. However, in order to optimize my ability to protect and provide for you, I am able to answer a request or provide for a need in any other area of the facility." "You don't think that's a little invasive?" Mary asked. "Particularly in our sleeping quarters? As a general rule, humans don't like being watched in their sleep." "There is nothing voyeuristic about my intent, Miss Ketch," Scarab answered. "As I said, my primary function is to provide for the needs of organics. In order to best accomplish this goal, I must be able to observe you at all times. I will not invade your privacy, nor will I share any of the sensory data I have collected from you with any of your crewmates. I simply wish to serve." "It's your great pleasure to serve," Mary echoed. She wasn't sure if she was being paranoid about Scarab's ability to watch her every move, but it had almost sounded defensive just then. Could computers actually be offended when questioned about their methods? Mary doubted it, but it did nothing at all to allay her concerns. Precisely, Scarab answered, with an air of finality. Mary tossed her bag of toiletries and other necessities on the bed and began to remove her sweaty jumpsuit. All right, Scarab, but if you want to please me, you're going to have to be discreet about any monitoring that goes on in this room, okay? Certainly, Miss Ketch. I will be as unobtrusive as possible. Mary unzipped her bag. Sitting among the messily folded laundry and hygiene products lay a photograph in a clear plastic frame. She pulled the photograph delicately from the bag and looked thoughtfully at an image of her and Jean, taken on their vacation to Vancouver 3 years ago. Everything had been so simple then. Everything had seemed right. Scarab, one other thing, she said. Yes, Miss Ketch. She smiled sadly and set the picture gently on top of the bedside table. It's actually Mrs. Ketch. Certainly, Mrs. Ketch. That's Chapter 2. I will be uploading Chapter 3 at some point. I don't know when yet, but it'll happen. I'll let it sit for a while. Meanwhile, let's get to 750 pre-orders as soon as we possibly can. Again, we only have 19 days as of the uploading of this video, and we've still got a lot more to get. I'm optimistic. It's gonna happen. But the sooner it happens, the sooner I can start sleeping again at night. So, press on.